Welcome to America, the land of dreams and massive debt, 2025 edition. This is the United States of America in 2025. Still sitting pretty at the top of the global economy with a GDP. Yeah, that's the big number that measures all the stuff we make and sell, hovering somewhere between $28 to $30 trillion. That's trillion with a T. They invented the iPhone, gave us Teslas zooming silently on the freeway, and Coca-Cola, the fizzy addiction that conquered the globe. With a population of about 340 million people, the US is home to powerhouse companies like Apple and Google, and has a financial sector so big that Wall Street basically controls the heartbeat of the planet's economy. To put things into perspective, the total global GDP in 2025 is expected to be around $110 to $115 trillion. That means America alone makes up roughly 25 to 26% of the world's entire economic output. Put simply, for every $4 earned worldwide, more than one came from the US. That's insane, especially when you realize Americans make up only 4% of the world's population. Earth has around 8.1 billion people now, in case you haven't checked lately. So, how does 4% of the world's people produce 25% of the world's money? Magic? No, just economic overdrive. Back in the 1950s, after World War II, America was really on top, owning nearly 40% of global GDP, mostly because other countries were, well, bombed. But over time, Europe, Japan, and especially China caught up. Even so, 25% today? Still a flex. Now, if you combine the GDPs of the next 10 biggest economies, China, Japan, Germany, India, France, the UK, etc., you get about $50 trillion. That's only double the US GDP, even though their combined population is over 3.5 billion. That's 10 times more people. But here comes the plot twist. Ready? America also has the biggest public debt on the planet, over $36.22 trillion. That's more zeros than your average calculator can handle. How can the richest country also be the most in debt? Great question. Let's break it down. Public debt sounds scary, but it's really just borrowing. Imagine you earn $10,000 a month and want a $50,000 motorcycle to look cool and impress your date. You don't have the cash, so you borrow $40,000 from the bank and pay it off later. Governments do the same thing, except instead of $40,000, the US borrows trillions. And instead of borrowing from Mom or Chase Bank, they issue Treasury bonds, IOUs that say, "Trust me, I'll pay you back eventually." In 2024, for example, the US collected about $4 trillion in taxes, income tax, corporate tax, sales tax, you name it. But they spent around $6 trillion on highways, hospitals, fighter jets, and bailing people out during recessions. That $2 trillion gap? Yep, borrowed. This borrowing has been happening for decades. Wars, recessions, pandemics, they all added to the pile. That's how we got to $36.22 trillion in debt. Think of the US as one giant family with 340 million members and a taste for big spending. And the spending doesn't stop. In 2020, during the COVID-19 crisis, America rolled out over $5 trillion in stimulus packages to stop the economy from collapsing, checks for citizens, support for companies, vaccine purchases, all funded by more borrowing. Debt jumped from $27 trillion in 2020 to $36 trillion in just 5 years. A big chunk of this spending goes to defense. The US doesn't just protect itself, it basically plays global police. It has 800-plus military bases in 70-plus countries. In 2024, the defense budget alone was nearly $900 billion. That's more than double Vietnam's entire GDP. And when taxes don't cover it, you guessed it, more borrowing. Now here's a fun fact. Over 70% of the US debt is owed to itself. Yep, most of it is owned by Americans, including the Federal Reserve, aka the Fed, which holds around $6 to $7 trillion in bonds and Social Security trust funds, which have loaned about $2.8 trillion to the government, money meant for retirees. Thanks, Uncle Sam. Private banks, investment funds, and everyday Americans also buy these bonds. Why? Because they're safe. Like super safe. Like put your money under the mattress but better safe. The other 30% of the debt, about $10 to $11 trillion, is owed to foreign countries. And the biggest lender? Japan with $1.3 trillion, followed by China with around $1 trillion. They used to hold more but scaled back. Other countries like the UK, Ireland, Saudi Arabia, and various Caribbean nations also buy U.S. debt as part of their investment strategies. So, is U.S. debt a problem? Not exactly. It's more like power. U.S. Treasury bonds are the safest asset on Earth. When stuff hits the fan, like the 2008 crash or the 2020 pandemic, investors run to U.S. bonds. Why? Because the U.S. has never defaulted. And also because, if push comes to shove, the government can just print more dollars, thanks, Fed. That's the luxury of having the world's reserve currency. Everyone uses the dollar. Oil? Traded in dollars. Samsung phones? Paid for in dollars. So when America borrows money, people don't freak out.
Argentina borrows?
Interest rates go to 20%. America borrows 2 to 4%. That's the benefit of global trust. And no, the US isn't freaking out about paying it back. In 2024, they spent about $800 billion just on interest payments. Sounds like a lot? Sure. But with $4 trillion in tax revenue and the ability to keep borrowing, they manage just fine. Unlike other countries, the US can keep the party going. Most of the debt is internal, and the rest of the world needs America to stay stable. Japan, China, big investors, they all want America to stay strong. If the US collapses, the global economy melts. Oil stops flowing. Trade crashes. Nobody wants that. So yeah, America's got debt. Lots of it. But it's not just a burden. It's part of a financial power play backed by the world's trust and the almighty dollar. As long as people keep believing the US can keep borrowing and spending like the global baller it is, America is like that rich uncle who borrows money from everyone in the neighborhood, but still throws the best parties and somehow keeps everyone wanting to hang around, because deep down we all know, if he falls, we all fall with him. Thanks for coming to this wild ride of economics. If you like this story, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Until next time, peace out.